Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest today is Jonathan Schor, founder of CodeMonkey. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here today. Tell everyone a little bit more about CodeMonkey and what you guys do.
Thanks for having me. So, CodeMonkey is a leading platform, a globally leading platform for online computer science education for children from kindergarten to high school. We started the company 10 years ago with a game-based course teaching young kids, like lower elementary kids, to do text-based coding in a real programming language. That was a new thing, while all the rest was only doing like the drag and drop block-based coding for those young ages. The experience was very successful. We had like millions of users coming onto the platform very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Then we gradually grew the company from like being a single game or single course to a company that provides a full pathway for computer science from kindergarten to high school, while still keeping this game-based and project-based interactive style of teaching.
Interesting. And I know nothing about coding. I've told a couple of people that before. I know that you have to put like the arrow and then script and then close the arrow at the end.
Well,
That's about all I know. But it's interesting to me that coding for kids can also be such an entertaining one a couple of things. It can be entertaining for them, but they are also immersing themselves into learning the actual activity. And it's more so it's not even like a hey, I have to do this thing because I need to learn it. It's like, hey, I'm interacting, I am engaged, I am enjoying this, and I'm still learning for something that I can use in the future. So I'm interested to hear, how did you come about even starting the company? What was the light bulb moment that made you want to start this whole thing? And what made you want to do it the way that you did it?
so I actually have a good story for that because most entrepreneurs in education like started doing those things when they became parents and they were experiencing some educational challenge with their
Hmm.
kids. I am a father now. My daughter is 7 years old, but I actually started the company 10 years ago, so that wasn't what started it for me.
Hmm.
In Israel, when you graduate from high school, you usually have to do military service, but I didn't do that. So instead, you do some sort of civil service, which is usually either in health or education. I did
Hmm.
education. I was working in a school in a town in the south of the country, like that had lots of immigrants communities. I was working with the children, and in the after school hours, I started my own coding courses for kids where I created those little games for them before each class that they have like sort of like puzzles or small games that they have to work through
Hmm.
writing lines of code. And I saw that that was very effective, very much in the way that you described. Like they don't experience this as learning. It's like a computer game for them
Hmm.
that they just happen to play by writing code instead of by using a controller. Yeah, so that was the experience. I wanted to sort of
Hmm.
be able to scale that experience to students all over the world, regardless of the teachers being around for them, because I knew that was the main barrier, uh,
Hmm.
that most teachers were not able to create this themselves. So I wanted to create something online available for everyone.
And thank you for sharing that story. It's interesting to see how like things that we go through in life kind of just like, hey, I want to pursue this thing. So it's really awesome. And for you, I'm not sure how big the team is at the moment. Over 10 years in the space, I would assume that the team is getting larger and larger as the years go by. Interestingly enough, I find that maybe working with kids in a in-person environment has many intricacies when it comes to the hiring process. Obviously, having someone that's vetted, making sure that they can work with the kids properly. But in an online space, how do you view hiring? Well, like, what are some of the things that you look for? Because they're not necessarily working with the kids. It's just like managing the actual processes and making sure that the product is good, the delivery is going well, the management of the systems, all those things. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts when it comes to hiring and going through those processes?
So it depends very much on which role, but
Hmm.
which role am I hiring for? But it's always a huge plus if the person has some either real hands-on experience working with kids or in education, or
Hmm.
at least is excited about the potential, that education technologies has to sort of impact society in a positive manner.
Hmm.
Because I find this is very hard. Because when you go into the work itself, it's not as rewarding like the day to day. As working with actual kids could be, because eventually you're sitting behind a keyboard and a screen, and you're doing marketing
Yeah.
or sales or customer success or coding. So it's very important to have this, I don't know, inner motivation or
Hmm.
sort of share those values that brought us, the founders, to start the company in the first place. I think if the team
Hmm.
has it, they're better positioned to to stay on board for longer and to stay sort of self motivated.
Is there a particular way that you look for sharing those values, to look to share, to see if they share the values that the founders have for the company and obviously for the impact that they want to make?
That's an excellent question. So you can see it in the resume because if you ask a question, like people will tell you anything,
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly. Like, do you care about
Yeah,
respect?
of
Yes.
course.
That's right.
Right. But you see the choices the person made. So, for example, our VP sales, we started just as one of the salespeople. He actually used to teach. He moved to Israel from Canada and he was a school teacher in the same school that he went to as a student. So, we chose to become a teacher and to work as a teacher
Hmm.
as his first career choice until he moved away from Canada. So, obviously, the
Hmm.
person knows education, cares about education, excited about it. Then he had also some sales experience from his first jobs in Israel, like
Hmm.
non-teaching job, and I knew that for him, CodeMonkey would be a perfect fit. Like he's excited about education, he knows teachers, he knows schools,
Hmm.
and he's also already made this shift into sales for his own reasons. I guess he's also excited about that, or he decided he wants to earn more.
Hmm.
So that's a classic case. We had another case like this with a lawyer that turned that got tired of being a lawyer, and she started searching all kind of more impactful career path.
Hmm.
Took some courses and started some initiatives, and you could tell she really believes in the mission. Like she's really looking for something that has more impact. She quit like a very convenient sort of law career in order to pursue that, and she is pursuing that for several years. And then she found CodeMonkey.
Very, very interesting. And as a company who operates globally, I'm assuming there were quite a few bumps along the way into expanding and getting to the point where you guys are at today. Talk to me about some of the challenges that you had when it came to scaling the company and managing to showcase it in different parts of the world.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the thing about we started a company in Israel, and the good thing about starting a company in Israel, because Israel is such a small market, all companies, all tech companies that start in Israel, they target the international market from day one. Like
Mm.
so the company, the mindset, everything is in English from day one, and everything is sort of. Sorry, can you hear that noise? Somebody is making
No,
some.
I hear nothing.
Okay.
You're good.
Um, so we did start the company. We had the first pilots and rollouts in Israel, but we knew that they're just serving the purpose of creating like success stories. So, for example, one of the first school we went to in Israel was the American school in Tel Aviv, because
Mm.
we knew that that would translate better as a reference client to our first clients in the United States.
Hmm.
But the United States is relatively easy because it's a culture that is, the entire country, I guess, is built
Yeah.
around like immigrations and people
Hmm.
from other countries. So it's a culture then an ecosystem that is very foreigners friendly, I would
Mm.
say.
Yeah.
It's harder when starting to do business in places like China, Japan,
Mm.
Finland is a market that we only recently successfully penetrated and was important for us. So um, yeah, and then you have different challenges in different markets, not only by
Hmm.
the differences of culture and language, because of the education market being so different from country to country, the school system, the way school make
Mm.
decisions, the way they curate, they choose
Yeah.
curriculum and software, the way they purchase, like, it's so different.
Is there a specific thing about growing a company, or maybe a belief you have, or an initiative that you always think it's important, that is not so usual? So maybe not the common way of doing things that you, but for you, it works really well and you truly believe in it, but not for most. Is there anything like that for you?
Wow, that's a good question. It's hard to really. Maybe there was something about the way that CodeMonkey became successful. I think
Mm.
was very mindful for sort of opportunities, because there are so many different ways you can go with this product. It can be B2C, B2B. You can sell to schools, to after school. You can sell in
Hmm.
different countries. You can sell directly through
Yeah.
resellers. So many different ways. But education, specifically, if you're targeting a niche like specifically computer science,
Hmm.
you have to be very extremely focused with your resources. You cannot
Hmm.
afford to do everything. So I think what worked well for us is really just stay sort of alert for opportunities, and when a good opportunity comes along, to sort of quickly abandon like the plans that you were making in your head and say, "Oh,
Hmm.
huge opportunity.
Yeah,
Let's do
fast
that and
pivot.
see where it takes us." Because we had this dream about I don't know, creating a mobile app, doing like a huge B2C play, but then
Hmm.
we got an opportunity to win like a national level deal with the Ministry of Education, and like very profitable and
Hmm.
success stories. So
Yeah,
just take
pivot fast, act faster.
let's just pursue that and let's see where it takes us.
That's so interesting. And you mentioned obviously there's lots of opportunities that can come your way, B2B, B2C. For you guys, is there a specific thing that you're focusing on at the moment? Is it more B2B? Is it more B2C?
So we always had to focus, since we had those opportunities there early on with selling to schools. So we decided to focus on B2B and sort of treat B2C as a byproduct. And
Okay.
we don't even have a mobile app. So the B2C product for CodeMonkey is just a different license for the same platform that we created for classrooms, almost the same user
Mm.
experience. So yeah, that was the decision. We were successful in classrooms, so we decided to focus on the classroom scenario.
Hmm.
With time, we sold the company into late 2018, and then COVID hit, and suddenly the B2C version started gaining popularity, very quickly because people
Yeah.
go to school. They just had their kids at home looking for things for them.
Hmm.
So that was the first time I thought, okay, the B2C thing is getting so much traction, even though we're focusing on B2B.
Hmm.
Let's start optimizing that as well. But even then, the optimization was, on the funnels, on the user acquisition. We
Hmm.
still continued to manage to steer the product roadmap with this mindset of classrooms first.
And is there more of like a challenge, because it sounds to me like the way it's so built, it was so intrinsically built for the classrooms and for a larger group of people. It's just so much easier for it and the way that it flows. Is there a more difficult aspect of trying to reach it direct to parents, direct to family, direct to the consumer so that they can get it hands on right away? Is that kind of maybe why the focus went towards B2B as opposed to B2C? I would love to hear more about that.
I would say when you're competing over, I would say, attention of users, it's much heavier lift in the home environment and the consumer space,
Mm.
because you're competing, with full blown, computer games, or with extremely immersive, high end, expensively produced learning experiences
Mm.
created, by huge media companies. So the competition is so much harder in the home environment. When in the classroom, you're competing often with a teacher speaking to 30 kids with a
Hmm.
blackboard and chalk and some slides. I think it was easier to quickly, with this relatively low investment,
Mm.
create a learning experience that would stand out in a classroom setting in a school.
And what are some of the best characteristics for the schools that you're like, oh, I love working with this school. Like this school is the best. What are some of those that you're like, if every school could be like this one, I would just like we would be happy forever.
So first of all, there's a characteristic of school environment, not a specific rule, but the way the schools work, which I love, is that the staff stays. You get a new batch of kids every year. So once the school
Mm.
teacher is used to teaching with a certain product with CodeMonkey, the renewal is so easy because the products work
Hmm.
well. The teacher is used to working there, and you're just getting new clients, automatically every
Yeah.
year, because that's the way schools work. Like you get the
Uh-huh.
next level,
Yeah.
next group of kids. So this is something I love the structure of schools, and
Hmm.
the specific school that what works well, what works best for CodeMonkey is when there's like sort of a coding champion among the school staff, becomes a code monkey
Hmm.
ambassador at the school. And what's even better, if that teacher manages to sort of recruit other enthusiasts among the team, and then even if
Hmm.
the specific teacher becomes unavailable, like busy with other stuff, move to a different role, to a different school, or just quits, retires,
Hmm.
you retain the client because you are not dependent on the singles
Hmm.
champion that brought you in the first place. That person made sure to sort of nurture the next generations of code monkey teachers in that
Yeah.
institution.
That's so interesting. It sounds like as you're building the raving fans and the schools that are really good at what they're doing, and specifically the champions inside of them, they're like, "Hey, this is really good," and then they tell the other teacher, and then it so happens that that main one, the main one, kind of has to leave. It's like,
Yeah,
"Hey, we got the subs, so we
yeah,
can have everything and just
exactly.
problem place," which is really really awesome.
Yeah.
And what for you now? What are some of the goals that you have for the company now? Obviously, 10 years. I believe you just said that the company was acquired in 2018. So, what now? What's next for CodeMonkey? What are some of the things that you're looking towards?
So now we reached the boring stage of the company, which is very focused on growth and EBITDA. During startup days, you're trying to make noise and grab attention and
Yeah.
fundraise and exit, and now it's really about just becoming more efficient. Achieving faster year-over-year growth and increasing the profit margin. So
Mm-hmm.
extremely boring, but no, it's not. But it's not. It's really not boring because it's about becoming. For me personally, it's about becoming better in management, I guess, or in
Mm-hmm.
business, and eventually it's working with people. Working with the heads of the different
Mm-hmm.
teams at my company, being smarter about planning ahead, setting goals, reviewing, evaluating, building strategies. Specifically now, what we're doing is expanding beyond computer science. I said in the beginning, we sort of matured from creating specific computer science courses to creating a full computer science curriculum or pathway.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that. And now the next stage is expand to other subjects
Mm-hmm.
beyond just computer science. Makes sense with the unit economics. Once you're already catering to school, it makes sense to to be able to increase the deal size, the average deal size. That way, if you're selling more than only computer science related stuff.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And is there anything that you think could get in the way of those goals? Maybe a challenge or something that you're like, if I could just not have that problem happen, then we'd be good to go, and just it's just scaling from there.
Wow, with the market, the education market, I think is very sensitive to all kind of trends, political and social trends
Mm-hmm.
are surrounding the school environment, and this is out of our hands. The trend of adopting computer science as part of the mandatory curriculum in the USA, especially all over the world, but also in the USA specifically.
Mm-hmm.
The USA is still positive and steady and growing year over year
Mm-hmm.
consistently. But there is, other trends that sometimes create, confusion and makes it harder to predict and sustain stable growth. So, for example, now with AI, you trend. Everybody's talking about AI. So
Mm-hmm.
also in the K-12 world, everybody wants to teach AI. Everybody's concerned about AI, and it sort
Yeah.
of diverts the conversation. Like you need to go back a bit, saying, well, this is not instead of every all the reasons that we had for teaching kids, starting to teach kids to code at a young age, they're still relevant. They're even more relevant as AI has
Mm-hmm.
become, makes technology even a bigger part of our lives. But you sort of have to fight over the focus to stay, like, for the schools not to jump to the next trend and sort of forget about, wait a minute, we're just making progress about implementing this computer science thing. I know now that everybody's talking about AI or NL or, social emotional learning. This is all important, but let's
Yeah.
not let's not stop where we really started.
100%. It's like let's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like we don't have to change the focus. It's just like retweaking and doing it the right way as it was supposed to be done
Yeah,
from forever ago. Is that correct?
yeah, exactly.
That sounds about right. Awesome. I just have one last question for you, which is actually not a question for me. It's a question from the last guest for you when they
All
had
right.
no idea who you were. So, you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
How do you know when you are 3 feet from gold or a mile away from nowhere in the business?
Wow. Like short answer, I would say that it's impossible. But yeah, we always had the goal of selling the company because it was a startup. We raised money from investors. Obviously, the promise was that we'll eventually sell the company for a much higher valuation.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot say that we knew, when it became 3 feet from the goal. If you asked me, like I couldn't see it coming. I think, like it
Mm-hmm.
was, we're doing everything that that made sense to do in order to improve the chances of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, this is not something that you can predict or control. Something happened in China with regulation, with government taking some actions that made people believe that computer science will become a requirement for entering college, and then
Hmm.
this huge push in the China education market for computer science education for kids started happening, and that led to the acquisition eventually.
Oh, awesome, Jonathan. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sharing your insights. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about CodeMonkey and what you guys are all about?
Just Google CodeMonkey; it comes up first, hopefully. CodeMonkey.com, and sign up for the free trial, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.